Hello.
Hi. Just sending invites out, getting some more people in here. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Doing good. I'm kind of happy it didn't. For some reason, every time I've gone live, I couldn't hear you, the second person I was with ever, and I'd
Okay.
have to reset it in the middle of it every single time. This is the first
Oh
time I never
no.
did that.
Yay! It's got to work at least once, right?
Yeah, that's all I asked for. Turn it up. All right. Hi, Brittany and welcome everybody. Send those invites out. Let's get some more people in here. We're here talking to Jasmine Wallace, who's the author of um, Demon's Choice, and why can't I think of it? I talked about it earlier today. What was the other one?
Demon's Faith and the Christmas Trap.
Yes, yeah, because I was talking about your newest book coming out in March, which is super
Yes.
exciting.
Yes, I'm very excited for it. I've been working on it today and I'm very ready to be done with it.
Yes, talking to all your authors has kind of made me want to start writing my own book.
Do
So
it.
I might have an interrupter, just warning you. Hi Taylor. Um, my dog Chloe, she likes to get in the middle when I'm on this. Um, so let me. I'm kind of all discombobulated today. I don't even know why. All right. One question Maxine asks is, what does she use for her inspiration or to get into the mindset of writing?
So with the Demon series, Supernatural was kind of an inspiration for it. My husband kind of kicked off the whole notion. Hi Beth. Um, but it was whilst we were watching the Supernatural series. So I tend to watch Supernatural whilst I'm writing my Demon series. But otherwise, it's music. I'll find songs or something, and a particular song sparks a storyline for me, and then I'll just kind of go from there and tend to listen to that song obsessively until I'm sick of it to keep going.
My stepdaughter was a lot like that, who listened to one song a million times. I'm like, can we please listen to something else? But Supernatural is actually one of my favorite series to
It's a
watch.
great show.
Yeah. Uh, we used to actually sit down as a whole family and watch it.
Yeah.
Uh, so, um, how do you get into? No, not that one. What? Uh, trying to, I'm so all over the place today.
It's all
Um,
right.
who is your biggest influence for writing?
Ooh. Um, so I've probably got like a few that have kind of inspired me, like other authors that inspired me into writing. Um, the one of the first like full series that I read uh, is a series called Del Toro Quest by Emily Roda, and it's it was written, I think, like early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. And I don't know a lot of people that have read it, but it it was a sort of a YA fantasy quest type series where three characters go off to restore the Belt of Deltora to save the kingdom from a shadow evil thing. A little bit like Lord of the Rings style feel to it. But it was that series that got me into writing initially when I was in my early teens. And that developed into my love of fantasy genre, paranormal, which fantasy that turned into paranormal as we've gone along, and that introduced me to things like the Harry Potter books at the time, which pulled me further into the fantasy genre, and that then led to the fantasy romance genres for me, and developed from there. But I would say that my desire to write did start back at that series of Deltora Quest.
That's a book I actually haven't heard of, so I will be looking that up as soon as we're off.
They're hard to find now. They were part of the Scholastic program when I was in school, and I think I've only met one other person that's ever read them. They are hard to find, but you can, I think, find them on Amazon. But I'm not 100% sure on that anymore.
You can almost find everything on Amazon these days.
Yeah, that's true.
How did you pick your covers?
So I have a cover designer for. So I made the cover design for the Christmas trap on Canva. I found like a template on Canva and just Christmassied it up a little bit. But for the Demon series, I had a cover designer who I found through Fiverr. I really liked sort of the examples of work that she had, looked through her reviews, had a bit of a chat to her. And for Demon's Choice, I said that I had an idea of what I wanted. I wanted the two hands kind of reaching to each other. So as a visual, I've got the hardcover. So I wanted the two hands reaching to each other on the cover for Demon's Choice. But I basically gave her a description of the characters, a description of what the story was about, and I said, have at it. Because I didn't know what I wanted it to look like. And she came back with a couple of different designs, and I just picked the one that I felt suited the story best. And I went back to her for Demon's Faith, and I'll go back to her for the rest of the series as well. She's done an amazing job on it.
Are we done? You're not a part of the live. I love you. Go play. Like I said, we're going to have an interrupter.
That's fine.
Which character have you written or created that has become your favorite?
Cyrus, who is one of the main characters in Demon's Faith. So he started out as a side character in Demon's Choice. And he was one of those side characters that tried to force himself into a lot of scenes, or force himself into doing something I didn't want him to do. And it got to the point, there was like, I wrote a very brief interaction between him and Marcus at the end of Demon's Choice. And suddenly I wanted to give them a story. So that birthed Demon's Faith and their storyline, Marcus and Cyrus. But Cyrus he's so much fun to write. He has no filter, kind of just says what he wants. He's a brat, and he just does it so well. He's so cute, and he just doesn't care what people think about him. And I love writing him. I love writing his lines, his interactions with other people. he's very smart. He overanalyzes everything, so I get to like really deep dive into emotions with him on the page. And he, I put him through a lot. I'm not particularly nice to him. I'm not particularly nice to any of my characters. Um, I put him through a lot, but I am very attached to him. He's become my favorite.
Um, is there anyone in any of your in your real life who inspired some of the characters from your books?
Not any of the characters that people currently know about, but in a future book, which is a spin-off novella, that is heavily inspired by an author friend that I've met through TikTok. She and I have become very close friends, and I based the character design off her, and then somehow inadvertently managed to base some of the storyline off things that actually happened to her without knowing that they had happened to her until I was talking to her about it. So she has heavily inspired a novella that is coming up, which is a spin-off to the Demon series. But the current characters, they're just they're people that if they were inspired by someone, I'm not sure who they are inspired by, but they walked into my head, they didn't leave, and I had to put them down on paper.
Um, how important are reviews?
um, I think they're important in the sense that they help potential readers determine whether or not they want to read a book. I do read my reviews. I know they say that you shouldn't as authors. I do. Um, they help me keep invested in writing. Uh, so far, I've not had any that have um, upset me in any great deal. There have been some that have made me question some things about how I write and how I deliver certain aspects. So I think in that sense, they are good for authors to see kind of what kind of audience we're writing for, who's reading our books, what viewpoints they have. But that should also be more towards beta readers, I think, to get that sort of feedback as to writing style and how you deliver things. Reviews are important, but I try not to let them influence me too much. I have a story, I have a story I want to write. I want it to be delivered in a particular way. There will be always people that won't like it. I write about demons. There are going to be lots of people that don't like my stuff. But
Yeah,
there will be people that do.
yeah. Um, and that's the whole point of if you don't like it, don't pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had a dream that you've turned into an idea or for a book?
Um, hmm. I think I dream about scenes a lot and will then try and write them out as soon as I wake up so I don't forget them. Um, yeah, I'm sure I have. I've got a lot of like old works that will probably never be finished or be turned into anything in particular. Um, but quite often I don't tend to write down what I've dreamed about. So if I have dreamt about something, I've usually forgotten about it by the time I get to my computer.
Um, do you your writing process? Are you organized? Do you plot everything out, or you just let everything flow?
So I have a generalized plot. I know roughly where I want the story to go. Uh, with the Demon series in particular, I know what my end goal is. I know what I'm headed. Hi, Jonathan. Yes, those eyes. I know where I'm headed with the story. Um, I know which characters are in which book, what the generalized romance tropes are. I don't try to like pick which tropes I'm going to write to, but like I knew that Demon's Choice was just going to be a standard male female romance. Demon's Faith is an romance. And future books, I know what the dynamic is going to be. And I know I'm headed towards the apocalypse. And I roughly plotted out how the apocalypse, the final book, is going to work. But I don't stick to like a broken down plot. So I have an idea of where the story starts for each book, and I know where I want the story to end, and what happens in the middle just comes up as it goes.
What has been the hardest part about writing for you?
Book 2. Book 1, Demon's Choice, I wrote in... Oh, my light's turned off. Hang on. Tech issue. Okay. Demon's Choice, I wrote in just under 2 months. And then I spent a few months editing and just getting it to where I was happy with it. Demon's Faith has taken me a lot longer to write. And it's also been harder for me to love because I worry about it comparing to book 1. I worry about people not enjoying it or liking it as much as book 1 has been enjoyed. And I worry that the characters won't be as well received. Because Ambrose from Demon's Choice, he gets a range of compliments. And I worry that Marcus and Cyrus aren't going to have that same sort of impact. So keeping myself going in Demon's Faith to finish it and not just be like, you know what, I've done one, it's fine. Because I've told people it's coming, so I feel like I can't back out now. But yeah, keeping myself motivated to keep writing Demon's Faith has been the hardest. And stopping that voice in the back of my mind of like, it's not good enough. Yeah.
I've come across so many authors since interviewing them that have had that same voice in their head. And what I believe is like there's going to always be someone out there who doesn't like those types of books, but that's why you need to put them down and put them away, because you are going to find readers. And that's the whole point of me getting you guys together, is to help find those readers who will like those books. And I think it will be a good book.
I've had like comments on videos of like previews that I've done on Demon's Faith, which I sometimes go back and read to keep myself going. Seeing those little things of like people saying they're excited for it, that keeps me motivated. I have a couple of very close friends who have read small bits of it here and there. I've had a couple of beta readers who said they really liked it, but I still have that tiny little voice of like asking if people are liking it or they're just saying it to be nice, and doubting the sincerity of people. And I keep telling myself that's just my social anxiety. That's just my brain playing tricks on me. But I do go back and read their comments sometimes, and that helps me be like, well, if there's just one person excited to read it, it's worth writing it.
Yes. I really hope that you don't let that voice convince you to not finish it and put it out there, because I'm waiting to read it. I, like I said, love Supernatural, and
Jonathan in the comments.
yes. Um, we also have Moon Halo in there. So, for those of you who are just joining us, we are talking to Jasmine Wallace. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. Her two current books that are out right now are both on Kindle Unlimited, so you can go check them out, or you can enter into my 5K and possibly win one. Moon Halo says, what is the part of your book that gives you confidence back?
I have just written or just finished a like a bonus epilogue for Demon's Faith. So it's generally my chapters I try to keep like within a 3,000 to 4,000 word range per chapter, and I've just written. It's just a little sweet. Well, I mean, it's spicy. I'm a spicy author. It's always going to be spicy. But it's just a little sweet 6 month later epilogue of the development of Marcus and Cyrus's relationship for the end of Demon's Faith. And I kind of wrote that to bring back my love for the story so I could make myself go back and edit it, because I finished it and I then put it down for a little bit, but I didn't want to pick it back up. I was really struggling to tell myself to go back and start my first round of edits on it. So I wrote this epilogue to make myself fall in love with the characters again. And writing that epilogue, and a couple of my friends have read it, and they've just fallen in love with the epilogue on its own. But writing that, it's made me, because it actually made me go back and start my first round of edits and reading back through what I've written. I'd actually forgotten some of the stuff I wrote early on in the book, and going back through some of that, I was like, actually, you know what, this is okay. Like, it needs a little bit of padding in some areas, but I'm okay with it. Like, so that helped.
That's good. We love the spice.
there is a lot of spice in Demon's Faith. Like, there was a lot. I mean, there wasn't a huge amount in Demon's Choice. I do try to keep a plot. I like plot driven. But Demon's Faith is spicier than Demon's Choice.
What do you write stories for just yourself?
Yeah. Generally, the stories I write is because I haven't gotten something from the things that I've been reading. With Demon's Choice, it was I really wanted a female main character who ended up stronger than the male counterpart. And you don't, in my books, you don't get more powerful than Lena. What she becomes at the end of her book, like, she takes out the villain on her own. Her journey is, to me, the perfect female character development. She doesn't, you know, she has her love, she's got her man, but she doesn't need him to save her. And I know there are books out there that have that, but nothing that resonated with me in the way Lena does.
That makes sense. Do you have a least favorite character?
I mean, I could say the villains, except I actually love my villains. One second. Sorry, daughter.
It's perfectly fine. I was just reading the comments.
Favorite character. Least favorite character. So, I love my villains because you can have a lot of fun with a villain. But there is one character so Demon's Faith has kind of like two villains, or the villain plot points shared across two characters. And one is called Kai, who is a Cambion, who's a half demon, half human. And he doesn't really add a whole lot to the end of the book. He's kind of more of the first half villain. But I hate him. I struggle to write him because I struggle to not make him too much like the villain from Demon's Choice. But I genuinely hate him. And I think because of what he does to Marcus, and then by extension to Cyrus. But yeah, he's probably my least favorite character, and I felt very vindicated with what happened to him in the book.
Moon's Halo says, same, I love the plot. Is there a moment, a character that makes you want to pull out your hair?
Yes. There is a scene in Demon's Faith, which I'm not going to say what happens in it because obviously the book's not out yet. I don't want to give it away. But Marcus does something that I worry about. I worry about how what he does is going to be received. But the consequence of what he does helps him realize how he feels about Cyrus. So it had to stay. It becomes a pivotal moment in the book. But it was one of those written moments where it kind of just happened. It wasn't something I planned. It's just where the story led me. And I was at one point actually banging my head on the table, calling him stupid, whilst also telling myself, well, I wrote him. But yes, that part in the book, which is about halfway through in the book, does make me want to tear my hair out. But it had to stay, so we'll see how it goes.
I'm sure people, well, I don't want to say enjoy that scene, but I think it's fun to have a book where you can sit there and yell and scream at the characters. Why are you doing this? Kind of like you do when you're in a movie and they're doing something you don't want them to do, and you're like, "Don't go there! Don't go there!" Because then
I think it will be it will be a moment where people will be like, that no.
Yeah, because.
But his redemption, or at least I hope his redemption, makes it worth it.
make a mental note to look out for that moment. And Sarah says, did you keep the description of mist?
Yes, I did. I know what she's talking about. So in Demon's Faith, the demons go to heaven, and I was on a live that Sarah was listening to, a writing sprint, and I was questioning about how to describe heaven and or this room within heaven. And I used the word mist, and someone else that we were talking to, she uses mist as something evil in her book. So she was having a bit of difficulty with hearing that as a description for heaven. And we were trying to find like something else that we could try and describe it with. Like people were helping me with wording and that, and they did help a little bit. But no, I did end up keeping mist for that scene, Sarah. So yeah, basically just talking like the walls looked like mist, there and not there at the same time, ever in fluctuation to the visible eye.
Have you ever Googled yourself?
Yes. I don't recommend it. The name Jasmine is not a Googleable name. For reasons not related to my books.
Moon's Halo says, how often?
As in, how often do I Google my name? I think I've only done it like twice. And it depends on what name I'm searching. Jasmine is my real name. Wallace is a pen name. And I do have to Google my real name every now and then because of my day job, just to make sure that for reputation reflection purposes. But my pen name is generally safe to Google, but the name Jasmine is not. So you do get some questionable results regardless of which name you're searching. But yeah, I don't Google myself that often. Maybe once a month.
For those of you just joining us, if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Moon's Halo says I won't tell anyone. Is there going to be another series coming?
Yes. So I do have the whole of the Demon series to write, which is 5 novels in the main part of the series, and 2 spin-off novellas at the moment. Whether or not more spin-off novellas will come, haven't decided yet. We'll see how we go. After that, I am branching away from the paranormal side of things, and I have a Dark Mafia series that I am working on. Whether or not, I think the first book of the Dark Mafia series will probably come out before I finished the Demon's Choice, the Demon series, sorry. So I'm not sure when the first one of that's coming out yet. I've got three books of the Demon series coming out this year, and then it will probably be next year the first one book in the Demon series will come out, and the first of the Mafia series will come out. But it all depends on when I finish it.
Sorry, letting the dogs out. How did you select the name of your characters?
Ooh, I love that question. Ambrose is a name that I've had around in my head for a while. He's been a character that has been in my head for a while, but he didn't fit into any book that I'd written up until now. And when I started writing Demon's Choice, originally I didn't have a name for the male character. He was just in the book as X until I figured out what I wanted. And then Ambrose just fit so perfectly into that role. And Ambrose means the immortal. So as an immortal demon, that worked for him. Then Lena, because of what she becomes at the end of Demon's Choice, I looked for names that were a derivative or a spin-off of Lucifer. And Lucifer meaning light bearer, Lena means ray of light, and is a female derivative of that name. Marcus and Cyrus were more... Marcus is a name that would have been used around the time when he was born, which is 1500 years before the events of the Demon series. Hi, Riggs. And Cyrus, he was... he wasn't born in Italy, but he grew up in Italy. So his parents had a Italian influence into his name. So that was... I was looking for a name that just kind of fit his personality. And having... I went through a few names. I was like, I needed a name that could be shouted, like, to tell him off over something. And Cyrus worked in that statement of just going, come on, Cyrus, really?
Some of the best
villain...
names that you can yell at.
Yeah. The villain name in Demon's Choice, Zagan, it literally means demon. So it was perfect for him. Zagan's almost 2,000 years old and probably one of the earlier demons. So that name was perfect for him. So I do put a lot of thought into the names I give my characters. I research sort of time frames when they'd be, because I've got characters that are quite old and I've got characters who are quite young. So I need to make sure that they have a name that, if they're very old, would have been appropriate for the time when they were born. So I do a lot of research into what name my characters get.
What is one thing that has helped you become a better writer?
Reading a lot. Authors are readers. At the end of the day, we cannot write if you do not read. If you only write without reading, you don't get this updated view as to how language is approached or how language is used to describe things. If you don't read, you don't learn new words. From when I started writing Demon's Choice, I had a massive book slump for years before I started writing Demon's Choice. And all of a sudden I picked up reading again and fell back in love with the written word. And I've kept that going. You know, there are times when I have to force myself to read, just because if I stop reading, I stop writing. And if I don't keep that going, I find I just repeat myself. I repeat phrases a lot. So reading helps keep my creativity going. I did see Sarah's question about if you want to get a signed copy of my book. I do sell them on Etsy, and I ship internationally. There's a bit of an international charge if you are international, but I do sell signed copies of my books on Etsy.
What book are you currently reading?
I'm currently reading Stolen Innocence by Chloe Serzi. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. She is an author here on TikTok. Um, she's another British author, and it is a it's a like a workplace age gap romance, and it's very good. It's very fun. Um, it's got Charlie. Um, oh God, I can't pronounce. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. From Sons of Anarchy, Charlie Human. Human, yeah. Um, the main character has his vibes. So if you're into that, go read it.
For all of you who have joined, we're talking to Jasmine Wallace. If you guys have a question, feel free to leave it in the comments below, and then we will ask it. She currently has 2 books out, a 3rd one on the way, supposed to be coming out in March. So keep an eye out for that. Exciting news. They are on Kindle Unlimited, right?
Yes.
So you guys can go ahead and check them out and read them. What do you ever have stuff that you have taken out, and do you reuse it?
Yes. So I have some things in Demon's Choice never made it into the book. There's quite a few times where I've written a scene or written a chapter in a few different ways, and have left it until I've written sort of the surrounding scenes around it as to which version of that scene gets used. And quite often I reshuffle as well. As I'm going through edits, I'm like, oh, I don't like that paragraph there. It needs to go down a little bit further, or that paragraph needs to come up, type thing. But for example, the scene in Demon's Choice where Lena finds out that Ambrose has been keeping a secret from her, there's 4 different versions of how that played out, and 4 different ways that she found out. But only one of them obviously made it into the book, because the other 3 just felt too fantastical. Right. They didn't feel right. They didn't fit. And the way she found out was more poetic and more true to her character. So yeah, but that means that anything that I've written in those scenes, or the objects or lore that I created, I could then use those in other scenes later, which I do. It just depends on what fits into the story. I never get rid of anything. I never delete anything completely. I always keep it in a spare document, and if I find somewhere where it fits later into the story, I'll slot it in.
Sarah says, do you edit your own books? Do you ever use beta readers?
I do edit my own books to an extent, and then I do kind of have an editor. I don't have a formal editor. My editor is my mum, which is interesting for the spicy stuff. But she was a language teacher, so she does grammatical edits for me. She doesn't do developmental edits. I do that kind of myself. I don't technically use beta readers. I know I should, but I didn't know about beta readers when I did Demon's Choice. I found out about ARC readers like 2 weeks before releasing it. I didn't know they were a thing. So I've thought about beta readers for Demon's Faith, but I decided that I didn't really want to do that because I didn't do it for Demon's Choice. Whether or not that's a silly decision, I don't know. Riggs down in the comments has read parts of it, as has another friend. They've read parts of Demon's Faith. So I'm kind of getting bits of beta reading, but not the whole thing. But I'm about to open up for ARC readers for Demon's Faith. But generally I do my own edits. My mother just does grammatical edits for me.
How much do the characters from Demon's Choice appear influence the events of Demon's Faith?
So the main characters for Demon's Choice, Lena and Ambrose, will appear in every single book. They are the starting catalyst for the series of events. They are there always. Everything is kind of surrounding them. They're the center. So at the end of Demon's Choice, we have a bit of a found family situation. Lena creates a council of demons that are there to advise her in her new role in hell, and that includes Ambrose, Marcus, Cyrus, and another demon called Archie. At the end of Demon's Choice, we see Lena, Ambrose, Marcus, and Cyrus have all moved in to a house together. They've built this kind of mansion-style house. And the events of Demon's Faith are around Cyrus wanting to prove to Lena, who is his adopted sister. They grew up in foster care together before they became demons. So he's wanting to prove to her that he is as important as everyone else around her. That he is not, he's not an overly powerful demon, but he wants to show to her that he can protect her as much as everyone else can who is more powerful than him. Marcus, who went through a significant betrayal about 1,000 years before the events of this book, he is desperate to keep his friends and not see something that happened to him happen to Lena and Ambrose. Marcus and Ambrose are very close friends. And the relationship that Marcus and Cyrus develop, Marcus is afraid that that's going to ruin all of that. So that's his fear. That's kind of his struggle throughout the book. So Lena and Ambrose are there. Marcus and Cyrus interact with them quite a bit. There's conversations, but the general focus is around the interactions between Marcus and Cyrus. So Lena comes in as kind of the sister, the overprotective sister of Cyrus, but they feature, but they're not a huge influence in what actually happens. And then in book 3, that will follow a character who gets introduced in Demon's Faith, a girl called Hope. She becomes the adopted daughter of Lena and Ambrose. So they will be there as well. And Marcus and Cyrus as her uncles, overprotective uncles. So the characters that have been introduced so far will remain for the rest of the books. And in the last book, The Apocalypse, we will see 4 points of views from a character from each of the preceding books and what they experience and what they do in the apocalypse.
Tasha? Sarah says that she volunteers as a tribute for an ARC read. And then
keep an eye out for the applications.
Moon's Halo asked, how do you make sure the MCs are the driving for the story?
1 second, sorry. Um, so that is a struggle, I think, with anything, to not let um, other characters or outside influences change the direction of the story. Um, I write third person point of view in the Demon series, but I write specific points of view of the characters. So one chapter will focus on Marcus's point of view. So you'll see his thoughts, his struggles, his feelings, maybe what he perceived to be the emotions of Cyrus. And likewise, then you'll get a Cyrus point of view chapter. And there have been times where I've had to be like, oh, okay, no, we're going in the wrong direction. We need to bring back and focus on Cyrus's need to be acknowledged. So quite often that means I rewrite a lot of stuff. Or I will let it go to a point and circle back through emotional, in a monologue, as to how that relates to why he feels inferior sometimes. And then sometimes I'll just write the whole chapter and then go back through and be like, okay, we veered off here. Let's pull back to the main point. So I don't think there's any one way to like make sure that the main characters stay on their plot point. Sometimes it's better to just let the story go where it wants to go and then add things in or adjust things slightly that link it back to the main point.
Do you have any hidden secrets in the book that only a few people would know? Or do you plan to write like Easter eggs in them?
So the first 4 books of the Demon series are kind of like premise books. They set up the emotional relationships of the main characters in each book. But there are things in each book that will be used again in the last one. So in the 5th book, the final book, there will be references back to the preceding books that you'll only get if you've read the preceding books. There are small supernatural references. Supernatural was an inspiration, so I do make some small Easter egg references to Supernatural, but not much because I obviously don't want to be done for copyright. Oh, he's a cutie.
This is Sasha. She's my baby, and she's being one. No, you cannot get on my desk. Get down. As far as your support system, does everyone in your family support your writing?
Yeah. My husband is one of my biggest supports. He puts up with me going on lives at odd times of the night and day. But he also he pushes my book out to people that he interacts with, he talks with. He's made an account on here. He's helping me record the audiobook. Both my parents read my books. My in-laws as well. My sister-in-law pushes it out to all her friends. So yeah, all my family has been very supportive of this journey. Um, my my family is just for Christmas they gifted me enough to buy my own ISBNs, so they're all really trying to help me succeed in this.
Um, that's amazing to have that kind of support system set up to where they just all support you.
Yeah.
My husband's been doing the same thing, and I could tell he's kind of getting annoyed with all these author interviews, but he supports me the same too.
They don't
So
last forever.
no, so I just make sure that I put time aside just to hang out with him and
Yeah, same.
chill. So, how do you balance uh, life with writing and reading and family?
I don't sleep, which I get called out a lot on here. Um, I yeah, I'm not sure I've really found the balance yet. Um, I am sometimes up very early in the morning before my daughter gets up and I'm writing. And then I go off to work, write during my lunch break, come home, write, read. Sometimes I'm up to like 2, 3 a.m. reading something. Generally, if I'm like super in love with a book, I can't put it down. I have to finish it or I can't sleep because I just keep thinking about it. So yeah, I'm not sure I found that balance yet. But it probably helps that I'm an insomniac, so I don't get a lot of sleep anyway.
You just fill your time so that way you're productive. Get as much done.
Yeah, yeah, the house could use a clean, but my book's written, so it's fine.
My house is probably barely ever clean, but mine's in a construction zone right now, so it probably won't be clean until everything's finished.
No, that's fair point.
I'm redoing all my floors in my house, so everything keeps getting shifted because I'm doing the work myself, not having someone
Yeah,
else do it. So it takes longer.
yeah, it does.
Um, what do you think, as a reader and a writer, makes a great book?
Um, for me, I focus a lot on dialogue. Um, if if the conversations don't feel natural, if they don't feel organic or like if it feels like the characters are struggling to interact properly, that pulls me out of a book. I hate the miscommunication trope. Um, I really try to not have miscommunication in my books. It's always going to happen because miscommunication happens in real life. But if the miscommunication feels forced or it doesn't make sense why there's the miscommunication, that will completely destroy my desire to read the book. Quite often, when I'm building a chapter, I start with the dialogue. I will write out the entire speech script of the characters first, and then add in the action sequences and the action tags around it. So yeah, for me, dialogue is key. Action can be forgiven, but if the conversation doesn't flow, the book doesn't flow.
as a writer, do you have any advice to people who want to start writing?
Just start. Your writing at the beginning won't be perfect. Writing is never perfect. Writing is not meant to be perfect. But unless you start, you won't do it. No matter what it is you have to write, no matter what story it is you want to tell, your story is worthy of being told. So just start writing. A blank page can be scary, but the moment words get out on it, it becomes so much easier to keep writing. And you'll see a lot if you start writing the beginning of your book to the end of your book, your writing style is going to change and develop so much in that space of time. You can always go back and rewrite if you're not happy with where a story is. You can always change the words to match what you want the story to be. But your story is worthy of being told. Your story is worthy of being read, no matter what it is. And there will always be someone out there that is wanting to read what you want to write. So just write it.
For all of those of you who are just joining us, we're talking to Jasmine Wallace. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments as they pop up while she's talking. I will be writing them down so that I can ask her. So, have you ever gotten writer's block, and how do you overcome it?
I get writer's block a lot. There are always going to be scenes that I think people find challenging to write. So I don't write linear in my books. I will happily write like something at the beginning and then jump to the end. And I don't mind trying to meet those points up in the middle. If I'm struggling with a scene, I'll just go and start writing something else. Or if I am finding myself unable to write at all with true writer's block, I'll read. I'll either go back and read my stuff and see if that can help like jog me back into writing, or I'll leave it completely and go and read something else. Sometimes I find I need a break from my story. So I'll happily take a day or a couple of days and not touch any of my writing. Sometimes even not even read. Go and listen to music, have a bath, do something else that helps me relax. But if I'm truly struggling with writer's block, I will go and read, because I find as soon as I start reading, my mind starts working again. My mind starts thinking about where I want to take the story. At the moment, I avoid reading paranormal because I don't want my work to be influenced by other paranormal authors. I don't want to accidentally take something from someone else's book.
Sasha, no, right now. How long does it usually take you to write a book?
I'm a relatively fast writer. So, I mean, I wrote Demon's Choice in 2 months. And that is 156,000 words. And Demon's Faith did take me a little bit longer because I struggled with the storyline a bit. But I wrote Demon's Faith in a little over 3 months, and it is at the moment sitting at 140,000 words. The Christmas Trap is a 25,000 word novella, and I wrote in 4 days. So depending on the storyline, depending on how much I'm loving it, I can write quite quickly, but then I take a very long time to edit. I will agonize over my story and editing it and developing it to where I want it to be. But I will not put a time limit on myself. I put a release date for Demon's Faith as an arbitrary thing to push myself to keep writing it. And I will do the same for Demon's Hope, which is the next one, but it will probably be released later than I had originally intended because I'm struggling with that one a little bit more. But I write quickly, but I never want to put a time limit on myself to write a story or edit a story, because I think if you're not happy with it when you release it, that comes across in the story or the way you market the book. So if I need to give myself more time to write something, I will.
Chloe says your voice is so calming. You should do ASMR as well as writing.
I've had a lot of comments about that. I do a lot of comments on my narration videos or my book review videos that people like my voice. So I do little bits of narration here and there, and I read Demon's Choice live on Mondays, which I'll be starting up again this Monday. But I have thought about doing like those little inspirational quote videos just to mix things up a bit on my channel. We'll see.
So you can go check her out, Chloe. Check her videos out. When did you realize you wanted to become a writer?
So I've been writing for years. So I may answer a slightly different question. I've always wanted to write, but I never wanted to publish anything until Demon's Choice. I've always written fan fiction or my own stories, but I never finished anything. Demon's Choice is my first completed work. And it was about halfway through writing it, I thought, actually, this is a story I want to share with people. And I've never had that feeling before. And the characters are voices in my head. I have full-on conversations with them. And they were saying they wanted their story told, and I wanted to share their story. So I have always wanted to write. I've always wanted to be an author. But it wasn't until Demon's Choice that I felt confident enough or in love with the story enough to actually put it out there.
Sorry. Puppy's whining over here. Anyways, if any of you guys have any more questions, please leave them in the comments. And if we don't have any more, we'll let her get back to hopefully some more writing so we can read her newest editions. So 2 of her books are currently on Kindle Unlimited. Her 3rd book comes out in March. So we are impatiently waiting for that book. I was lucky enough to, I believe I did a giveaway and got your Christmas Trap book.
Yes.
So I was lucky enough to get that one, and I downloaded Demon's Choice right afterwards. Have not had
the
a chance.
Christmas Trap and Demon's Choice are very different.
Yes.
Don't compare the two.
No, my main genre has always been the supernatural, paranormal, romance books anyways. So, but I wanted the Christmas Trap to have, you could say, my first festive book. I usually don't read the festive books because I kind of have to be in the mood for them.
I mean, the Christmas Trap isn't really festive. It's spice. Like, it is just spice. Christmas is the background time of year where the events take place, but it is essentially just 2 single parents having a fun night and then a happily ever after. But yeah, that is very different to Demon's Choice, which is a plot-driven, paranormal, well, supernatural romance, as I call it. But the Christmas Trap was just for fun. I was sick. I wanted a pick-me-up, so I just wrote smut.
And that's okay. There's so many of us who love this smut. For all of those who just joined us, go ahead and ask a question in the comment. We'll sit here for a few more minutes to see if there's anyone else who wants to ask a question, because I know there's like 4 people who just jumped in. But yeah, the Demon's Choice is actually the next on my list. Hopefully I can have it. I want to read it before the next one comes out. And the next one comes out for my birthday. So
yeah.
Yes, my birthday's on the 28th. So just a few more days for the 31st. So that will... Are we done whining? I'm talking here. She's very demanding, I want to say. So I'm planning on, once I get a bookshelf built, going all the books that I do really, really enjoy, that I currently have most of them on Kindle, because I just don't even have a bookshelf right now. So most of them are stacked on my side table. In my bedroom. So I would like to actually do them justice and get them put on the shelf. But I just started up my collection again. I've always had books in my life, and the funny thing is I'm dyslexic. So what started it, me actually even getting books, was the Harry Potter series. I've read before that, but it was little books here and there, just because I have a hard time sometimes comprehending what is trying to be said. So what I did was, because Harry Potter became so popular, and it had already been a few years in, I think they were on book 3 when I started reading it. So they started doing the audiobooks for it, and I read and listened to the books at the same time, so that I was able to comprehend the words that were in the books. And because of that, I have been able to read without audios a lot more than I was ever able to before. And I've moved so many times over the past 10 years that I couldn't keep moving the books. It was just too hard. So I donated all of them to the library, the county library. So other than a few that I were gifted and had messages inside from my friends, those are about the only ones that I kept. I donated all the rest of them. So now that I'm owning my own house and I'm almost finished with the work. I have 3 rooms left. I am starting collecting again, so I'm trying to keep it limited until I can get a bookshelf where I can get them all set up pretty and nice. Yeah. But it's getting there. So all of those who are joining us, if you have any questions, and if not, we're going to go ahead and let her go and enjoy the rest of her evening.
If at any point, if anyone is reading my book, Demon's Choice or Demon's Faith when it comes out, and you have any questions, please just message me. Message me on TikTok. I don't mind. I'm happy to talk with anyone about my books. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook. There is a link in my bio that has all of my social connections. But yes, anyone that has questions, people have messaged me before, and I will always happily answer anything.
And not very many authors still do that, so I really appreciate you coming in and talking to us, and I can't wait for your next book to come out.
It's been so nice talking to you. Thank you for having me.
Yep. Bye, everyone.
Bye.